Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the library. Let's get right into it. We have some exciting stuff to talk about tonight, so let's start with the intro. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. Really appreciate it. Tonight is an exciting show because for the first time, we're going to have a guest on that's going to tell us about a real life ghost experience rather than you just listening to me tell a ghost story. I think this is exciting stuff. So we're lucky to have Vinny Bracco coming on, the Brooklyn guy coming on. And I think you're going to enjoy this story. I know I'm looking forward to it. I don't even know it. So I'm going to be like you, learning about it for the first time. So it should be fun. Let's get him in here. And then I'll give you a little bit of background on what he experienced, the hotel that he experienced this in so that you have some background. Hello, Vinny. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, Anthony. I hope you're all doing well. And I see some familiar names in the chat. How are you? Gerard and everybody. How you doing, man? Thank you for having me.
Yep, Gerard is here, Carmela's here, Arlene,
Yeah.
Adam, all my regulars that like a good ghost story here on a Friday night. So
Tommy, Gina.
Tommy's here, of course. Yeah. I mean, Thindo would be here, but he's out at a boxing match tonight, so he's gonna miss us tonight. But him and Todd Father are at a boxing match. But
Okay.
but yeah, but they're normally here. Hello, Mitch Blank, good to see you.
Hey, Mitch.
And who else is here? Arlene is here, and a bunch of people. Patty Daly's here. Good to see you guys.
Hi, Patty.
So, now, Vinny, what you're going to tell us about is the experience you had on a trip, a romantic weekend type of thing with your significant other, to a place called Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. And the place that you stayed at was something called the Inn at Jim Thorpe, right? That's the name of the hotel.
Yeah.
And I did some background on this, on background information on this. And that hotel was originally called the White Swan Hotel, and it was built in 1833. And it burnt down in 1849, burnt all the way to the ground. There was a town-wide fire in 1849. I'm sorry, 1849. It burnt everything down in the town, and it was built up into what it presently looks like now. The year after, so the end of 1849, they rebuilt it, and they called it the New American Hotel, and it wasn't called the Jim Thorpe until the town changed its name, because the town was originally called Much Chunk, Pennsylvania, which is an interesting name in and of itself. And it was a coal mining town, basically. That was a lot of famous people would come and visit. And some of the famous names I saw that stayed in this hotel itself was Buffalo Bill Cody, Rockefeller, who else? President Taft and President Grant, and Thomas Edison even stayed there. And then I know you said you saw a couple of modern celebrities that have also
Coming down the steps. I was on the third floor, and coming down the steps, on the staircase, there's pictures. Paul McCartney and Wings, Matthew McConaughey, and there were a bunch of others, but I don't remember them right now, of course. And I saw Paul McCartney and Wings. I said, I'm in the place.
right. I mean, and it's such a quaint town, right? I mean, I've never been there, but the pictures are beautiful of the town.
Oh, yeah. It's all lit up, and it almost looks like a Christmas village where there's lights on the trees and everything. And the whole town, they have that railroad, the old-fashioned railroad, where you can take the ride, and it goes about 10 miles. It's about a 70-minute ride out, and it tells you original gas line, all that stuff.
Nice.
But, it's a quaint town. It was dead eerie. Well, I'll tell you the story, but the first night I was there Friday night in the bar at that hotel. They had a singer, an acoustic singer, and it was real loud. The next night, Saturday night, after I had my experience, it was like dead silence. And I swear, I'm not someone who believes in that generally. I told you the story of how I started believing in this stuff. I think most people look crap when they say the psychics. But I went in with an open mind, and I got it.
Yeah, no, it's great. I actually pulled up a couple of pictures so everybody could see kind of what the hotel looks like. So I'm going to share my screen real quick and see. Here we go. And I think I got a picture that kind of describes what you said here, that like that Christmas look here. Here we go. There's the lights in front of it right here.
Now that right there, that's the bar where you could walk in, and they have a singer there or whatever. And then the dining room is in this room. They had cut the terrace where originally they put a second door there, which wasn't there for the restaurant. But and at night, it's all the trees on the left side of this picture are lit. And it's a very quaint place. It really is. And they have like an old-fashioned music shop there. They have an old-fashioned brick-and-mortar bookshop. They have a secondhand place that you can get secondhand clothes. And I went in, really nice stuff. A very interesting town. You know you're in an older town. Right.
And I have I've also read that it's called the Switzerland of America, which I thought was interesting because the look is like a town in Switzerland with the mountains around it and everything lit up with that night with the lights on the trees and stuff like that. Let me see. Here's another picture I have of. Let's see here. This is another angle right here of the hotel during the daytime.
Right now, that's the train out toward where the watchtower is. That's the train, and you pick the train up right there, and it goes to the left, and it goes 7 miles or 8 miles, and it shows you a bunch of things, and it was really interesting.
That's cool. That is very cool. I definitely have to go there. It's on my list of places to go. And let me see something. I also have an aerial view of the town, which it looks kind of old, but it's still an aerial view. Let's see. Here we go. I mean, the picture looks kind of old, but it gives you of how it's like nestled. The town is like nestled in between the hills there.
Well, this is the street. If you could see my camera, I don't know if you could see my camera. I don't know if you could see it, but that's the town.
Oh, that's what's behind you there. Okay, there you
go. All lit up, and it's just it was a great experience, and it was worth it because I didn't believe it, and then I did.
No, that's awesome. And some of the things that I've read about this is that some of the experiences. I'm going to share a couple of the experiences that have
Yeah.
been noted, and they're general experiences. Most of them, TVs randomly turning on and off, objects moving around surfaces, orbs and shadows appearing in photos, children saying they see a ghost in their bed. Uh, a couple woke up and found chairs turned upside down in the room. There's cold spots at random times, which a lot of paranormal people and ghost hunters think it means the ghosts are manifesting. They're pulling the energy out of the air.
They've seen shoes out in the hallway. Your
Shoes in the
are out.
hallway.
That
Yep.
doesn't happen to me, but yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Shadow figures. There's also a couple of rooms that are specifically a lot of activity in it.
Yes.
And one of them is 211, and the other one is 315, I believe, or three.
Right.
Yes, 315, 310. Those are the main rooms that stuff goes on in.
I was in 307.
Okay, so you were close on the third floor. And the story, one of the stories is that the reason there's this connection between the second and the third floor is that in the late 1800s, there was a woman that they call Madeline who was to be married, and she had a boyfriend. So in other words, she was to be married to a guy, and her boyfriend was to be married to a girl. They were arranged type of marriages, and they were secretly meeting in spite of these arrangements, and they were supposed to meet in this hotel, and they were supposed to be on the same floor, and they were going to have a rendezvous and elope. So they were going to run out on both of their marriages, and they were going to get married. And what happened was he doesn't show up. So he doesn't show up. He was put on the third floor, and she was put on the second floor, and they never connected with each other. And as a result, Madeline, they say, committed suicide and hung herself in the room. In room 210, I believe it was, and they think that ghost has a lot of the reasons why there's activities in that room. So that was like the main ghost story that I read about in the hotel. There's also a story about a nurse that on the third floor there was at one time in the 1800s there was a nurse there that was taking care of ill people in one of the rooms during a pandemic. And that if you stay in this room, you may feel her icy touch and see her when you're laying in bed. So to me, that's really scary. That's really creepy. If you see you feel an icy touch or something, that would really creep me out.
I wouldn't do well with
that. But yeah, so those are the main stories. There's also like some random stories about hearing kids laugh, and then there's someone who claimed to have seen a young boy that was transparent and who was wearing suspenders and looked like burnt. The suspenders were burnt, and the theory is that he died in the fire that burnt down the original hotel.
Wow.
And then there's also this faceless. They call it the faceless lady, which is she's in Victorian attire, and that she'll be walking around and she'll disappear into doors. Like, so the doors will be closed and she'll be walking and go through the doors and vanish. So those are the main stories that I was able to pull up. And but let's hear about what you experienced personally.
Got up there Friday about 4:00 and just checked in, front desk. Very, very quaint place. They have a little parking lot where you can stand for 10 minutes while you're unloading, and then they have parking across the street. So I unloaded, went up to the room, brought the stuff up, moved the car, went back up. Everything was fine. We were going to get a bite to eat. Now it's like 5:00, 5:30. We go out till about 10. We were tired and driving all day.
Sure.
And I go into the bathroom and I smell burning. And I called my friend. She's sitting on the bed. I said, I don't know why I did this. I said, come here. Like I'm trying to be quiet. Like, what the hell does that have to do with it? But she comes in. Now, she had just gotten over a cold. So I said, do you smell something? She went, well, I really can't smell anything. She said, I have a cold, but no. I said, you don't smell burning? She goes, no. Now, the the main room, the bed, and it's about 30 feet.
Yeah.
And the air conditioner is blowing. Nothing walking out of that bathroom. So maybe, and I wasn't fixating on this stuff. When we walked in to check in originally, the lady said, I heard this stuff that goes on here. And she said, well, you're safe. You're in room 307. And she mentioned two, whatever it was, 10 and whatever. So, of course, after we had checked in, we went to that second floor just to see.
Uh-oh, what happened? We have wait, it looks like he got cut off. Oh, boy.
So she smells nothing.
Okay, there you go.
This point. I go back in about a minute later to see if I still smell it. Now I smell the lavender hand wash that I want. All right, maybe it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
I go in an hour and a half later. This time it's like 12:30. I go, yeah. She comes in again and she said, now I do smell it. She goes, yeah. I said, what do you smell? She goes, like a burning, like a charred or burning. I said, yeah. Like if something was burning outside and you smell it in your window or something.
Yeah.
She goes, yeah. And then just walked out. I came back in. It dissipated. The next day, everything's fine. She's taking pictures now, and she says, look, orbs. But no, it was the reflection from the fog lights that are coming down. I said, no, those aren't orbs. Because now she's getting freaked out because she smelled the smoke.
Right.
So what happened was the next day we take the train ride and everything's fine. We eat something, go in for a drink. The guy's playing, but it's very eerie for Saturday night, for Memorial Day weekend. Friday was bustling when we got there. Now it's like it was raining a little Saturday night, and it was just really eerie. Go upstairs, and we go down to the basement where they have a ping pong table, and they have a refillable water thing where you can refill your waters and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Did that to go back up. I'm behind her. I'm carrying the waters and shit. About 8 feet behind the 6 foot, whatever it is. She goes in and she goes, ah, and she starts running toward me. So what's the matter? The keypad, when you put the card against, started flashing, all kind of flashes. And when she opened the door, it swung back at her like someone held her.
Oh, wow.
She went running down the hall. I swear I thought someone was in there. She had key out. I didn't take my key out. So I said, what's the matter? So I said, give me the key. So now when I come back for the key, I see she's really shaken. She legitimately shaken.
Yeah.
So I walk in. Now I think that maybe someone's in the room, a maid, something trying to rob the place. So I open the door. It opens. I look into the left. Always leave the lights on. The lights went out. Everything's fine. I just look in the bathroom where the shower is. The curtain was just to I went like this and nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about it. Now although she had looked up this place before because wanted to go to a place like this, now she's really looking. So we go downstairs and she's shaken up. And we talk to the person in the front desk. And I said, you're going to think this is crazy, but does anybody up there? I know the second floor is supposed to be the one that has had, but they said we were safe when we checked in jokingly. She goes, oh no, the third floor, there was a fire. And at your end, where the last room before the outside door, a fireman, they got killed in a fire.
Wow.
And I said, oh, she said it was the second one. She goes, no, down right where you were was where a second fire was, where I said, I smell burning. I said, I don't want to sound like an idiot here.
Right.
She goes, no. She said, no, people, I don't think you're an idiot.
And you know what?
Saw my face. She saw in her face. She's white as a ghost. She knew we weren't joking around.
And you know what? I didn't say this before, but that was one of the accounts that I found, was that people smell a momentary burning smell that dissipates. It'll
It
be
was
there
about
and
3 seconds, 4 seconds.
it'll be
Yeah,
gone. Yeah.
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 And especially if that I went in there the first time, Friday, I smelled it. She comes in and doesn't smell it. So I walk out with her, and then I go back. I don't know how long it is. Anthony, it could be 2 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever it was.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
walk back
Yeah.
in, and I smell the hand wash.
Mm-hmm.
They have a very distinct soap. I actually bought one, Jim Thorpe. It's a nice. They robbed me for it,
Of
but
course.
bet me over for it. But it's
Yeah. Yeah.
a really nice smell. And if you wash your hands with that thing, the whole bathroom smells of it. So that's how I knew something was up. But when I saw her, and she's a pretty, she's not really a scaredy cat of anything.
Yeah.
The second time I said, "What's the matter?" I went to the room. Then I go back after she ran. She runs past me. I go, "What's the matter?" When I took the key and go back, now she's almost trembling. From the 10 seconds, and I said, I went to the door and came back. She was really scared. She doesn't scare easily.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I said, "What happened?" Because I'm behind her. I didn't see the
Right.
keypad or anything. I'm like 6, 7 feet behind her. She said, "I put the key in. The red and green starts doing this, like, and
Mm-hmm.
and I opened the door, and it closed on me."
So
And
so
she got
basically
scared, thought
she
someone was in there.
opened it. She had it completely opened, and then
Yeah,
it shut on her.
right. It started beeping, 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 but then it
Mm-hmm.
did open, and she got
Right.
it. I don't honestly, I didn't ask her how far, but she said it was opening,
Right.
and then it just closed right on her. Not like a foot, maybe like she was just opening the door, and
Yeah,
then
like a few inches. Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Wow.
she was shaken up, and then the lady said, "No, no, 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 no." So when we were checking out, the the guy in the back, she asked him. He worked for the place, and he said that story about someone was going to meet in a strange lot, whatever. Thought
Yeah.
he didn't show up. She was
Right.
on one floor, he was on the other. They
Yeah.
didn't cross paths because they were hiding, kind of. They didn't want to
Right.
be seen by people, and
Right.
she thought he didn't show up. He killed, but
Yes.
the thing was, they saw a bat on the window when they
Oh.
went to find her body. This is,
Oh, really?
he wasn't there. There was
Yeah.
a bat attached to the window from the outside. A bat.
Well,
That's what he
that's re-
told me.
that's
That's what he
really
told me.
creepy.
So, yeah, so I do now. I'll tell everyone, if you don't mind, how
Yeah.
I
Go
just,
ahead.
when I got married in 1990, um, my wife at the time, her father was ill in the hospital. Never made the wedding. 2 months later, after the wedding, he passed. I lost my two grandparents, my maternal and paternal grandmothers, within a month and a half of each other, and they were both 3 months before the wedding in July. When we got married, my wife at the time, her parents, the old Italians that they'll sit there 100 degrees with no lights on,
Yep.
no clothes on, they don't put the air conditioner on.
Mm-hmm.
So she came from that, turn the lights out, turn the lights out. So we had this first floor apartment, and there was a small room that we had a lot of boxes in because, we didn't have a lot of things, two people. And she'd tell me, "Close the front light. Why do you keep on leaving the light on?" I said, "I don't even go in that room. What am I going to do in there? There's nothing in there." But you'd see from under a light from the under the door,
Under
and
the
I'd open
door.
it,
Yeah.
and it's closed. And she'd say, "Oh, you just closed it," because she didn't think I wanted to get in trouble. So one night, uh, I'm laying in bed. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I look to the right, and you walk in. It's the bed, so it's to my right. She's near the window. I see this white cloud, like a Casper the Friendly Ghost. No shape though, just like hovering right near the door. The door was open. Kept the
Mm-hmm.
door. I used her name. I said, "Are you awake?" And she goes, "Yeah." I said, "Look to the right." And she looked to the right. "Oh my God, what is that?" She turned on I remember the stiffer lamps we had on each side. She turns
Yeah.
and it was gone. So at that time, her family came from the neighborhood for years, Maspeth. They knew the priest for years. At that time,
Right.
you would invite the priest over who married you when you get
Yes.
settled for dinner and all that shit.
Yep.
Well, he came over. We told him about it. Whatever he did, and he said, "No, I feel something in here." It was either your grandparent, your father saying he sees you and all that. Never saw it again after that.
Yeah.
And then I told Anthony, which it kind of goes. My sister Nancy died 7 years ago this June, and 11 months my junior. She went in for stents, and they had to close her up because they saw she needed quadruple. So, is Tommy getting married? I just saw that in here.
I think Bobo was joking. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, if you are Tommy, what are you, crazy? So they close her up. No, they have to plan it. They can't just do it. So they plan it for 2 days later. She wakes up and says to the doctor and to the kids that are around her, my 2 nieces, "Thank you, Janny. I had some dream." The doctor says, "You're on propanol. You can't dream." She goes, "Don't tell me I can't dream. I dreamt." So she tells us that, she tells my niece, I wasn't there, that she saw my father, who was deceased, and his father, who was deceased, her grandfather, at a big table. Now, she wasn't at the table. I never asked her, honestly, are you flying around? Are you looking down? All those stories. Never asked. But she said they were negotiating to give me more time.
Wow.
Now, she came out of the surgery. She's telling everybody she loves them, all of that. She had her, she's on the phone saying, "I'll be home Wednesday," to one of her friends. My niece is holding the phone for her because she has some wires connected or whatever they were. So she said to whoever, "Oh, listen, I got to go. I have visitors. They're here for me." My niece looks at, "Mom, there's nobody here." She says, "Can't you see them?" She says, "Oh." And my niece is like, and her eyes go in the back of her head, died of a massive clot.
Wow. That's real. That part is really jarring.
And I'll tell you what, Aunt, my sister was no one to believe any of that nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do, but listen, I saw that white ghost figure. I don't know what it was.
Right.
It didn't scare me either. The funny thing is, instead of being scared, because I knew there wasn't a fire, I didn't smell anything, but I don't know why we were both up at 3:00 in the morning, the exact time, right? Because we were sleeping.
Yeah.
And,
right.
And but I was very calm and said, "Are you awake?" I'll never forget. I said, "Are you awake?" And she goes, "Yeah," just like that. And I felt that calm because normally, I told you on here, I would have no problem walking into a bar with 30 guys if they were coming after me. But if I saw a rat, I'd run for the hills.
Yeah,
I have a phobia with rats.
Right.
But I wasn't afraid. As much as the girl that I was with said when she thought she saw the orbs, because she's taking a picture of that bathroom door from the bed. And I said, "No, it's the chandelier." And then she realized it. She wanted to check out. It's Saturday night. And she said, "Listen, because that door was even worse than the burning." She goes, "Let's check out." I said, "I'll drive home now, or 4 a.m. I'll get I'll get a Sheraton or something. We'll stay there. I don't care. You want to leave, we'll leave." And then she said, "No, I'll stay." But she was shaken up, and she doesn't play those games, nor did my sister, and I did not imagine white cloud. So I do believe, like I said to you earlier, most of the people that say they're psychic are probably full of crap.
Oh, yeah.
All these psychics. But I do believe, listen, everyone, you have priests, you have children that are 8 years old that came back and said, "I saw so-and-so pick the person out of a photo album they had never met. It's an ancestor."
Right.
People have the same stories, of heaven. And, even if some are bullshit because they read the book, 5-year-olds bullshitting.
Right.
So there has to be.
Highly unlikely. Yeah.
It makes sense. There's something. Look, to me,
Yep.
I know there are chronicled where a baby has gotten caught under a car and a woman has lifted a 3,500-pound car to get her child out of there.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that can happen, that kind of energy, I really believe, like I said, not all the stories people want to make money off of, but I know what I smell.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I even the second time, if she didn't come back and say, "Oh, I do smell it," I would have still believed it because I smelled it.
Hmm.
But then
Right. Sure.
with the door, that made me believe that the smell was real. And then when
Hmm.
I went down, and the lady said, "Oh yeah, on your side, right out of 307 is the last room, and then there's like a fire door." And then you could look out to the alley where the cars are parked for the 10-minute stay. You know, when you first check in. She said, "Yeah, firemen were killed."
Wow. That's crazy.
So
And that must have been recent, right? The firemen, relatively
I'm not
recent.
sure. I'm not
Yeah.
sure, but
Because
she said they
the
were killed.
original fire was 150 years ago, and it destroyed the entire building. Like, there was nothing left of the building, and
Yeah.
it was rebuilt from scratch. So that had to be like a little thing that happened afterwards with firemen and such. Because I don't even think there were firemen back then in
No,
1833
I
or
think
whatever.
that was a German town or Dutch or Swiss because the name that you used originally, what was that name?
Yeah, M-
That last
um,
name?
yeah, it was much Mach Chunk, Mach
I think
Chunk.
that was a family.
Yeah.
I think that was a family. And I went
Yeah.
into this uh, make America great again with all Trump flags and stun guns and all this stuff.
Hmm.
And you could tell he was, he practically had a picture picture of Mein Kampf with him. This guy was all German. I like, he probably had pictures of Hitler with his father. And, and, and yeah, I think that was a very German, maybe Swiss, you might be right. But that was a town that goes back. And usually when you hear about these ghost
Hmm.
stories, or it's usually these old towns. Now of course, after being scared shitless, I'm sorry I cursed, we're in the car saying, "So you want to check out Salem next month?" Have you
You get
ever heard anything about Salem?
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, I've heard tons of stories
Have you
about
ever
Salem.
been? Have you ever
I've
stayed at
never.
any of these places?
No, I've never been there. That's one place that I definitely want to go one of these days. But yeah, I've heard tons of stories about Salem. With because look, you had documented witch trials there where people who weren't witches were murdered. They were murdered by the craziness of the Puritans that were there.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's bound to be something that's spirits will hang around from. Something so
Right.
traumatic as that.
I always
Um,
wonder though, like what would make one hotel haunted where you could have a
yeah.
home. My ex, her before she was born, it was her room after her grandfather died in the room. Grandfather was going with her mother shopping, said, "I'll be ready in 5 minutes." She comes in the room. He's laying there peacefully, want to take a nap. He died. Uh, Never heard of ghosts in that house, in that room.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why do you think it's certain places that spirits can't rest, but then other
Yeah.
places, a murder could happen? Now, I had heard that Gravano's tallies, there have been people that said they saw ghosts and heard noises. Did you ever read about that?
No, no, really. Like, they come back
Tallies,
to
yeah,
haunt him, you mean?
yeah.
Um,
Where a couple of people, he set up one of his guys. I forget
mhm,
what guy. It started with an M. That guy he killed. And
right.
supposedly the owner of Tally's, they owned a restaurant. They made it another restaurant and said that they had seen, yeah, Gianni, they had seen uh, shadowy figures,
Mhm.
noises,
Yeah.
silverware going up and down and shaking. So I I believe if unrestful spirits probably, it probably has to be a perfect storm because like you said, a lot of people aren't happy they died. I don't
Yes.
see
Right.
ghosts all over the place,
Right.
so
Right.
it must be a perfect storm. And I just
Yeah.
think it's really interesting.
Yeah, some of the theories, there's various theories out there, but one of the theories is that some ghosts are just they like it. They don't want to leave. They like being around where they were their entire lives, and they don't want to leave. And they're not there to scare people or anything. They just where they feel comfortable, and they never fully transition because this is
Well, I
what
know
they feel comfortable.
you like music. I took a
Hmm.
tour in 1983 of the Dakota where John Lennon lived. We were out on a date, me and my friend and two girls, and
Hmm.
I'm showing them where it happened. And the guy comes to the gate. Can I help you? Dead of winter. I said, no, is this where Lennon? And he said his relief didn't come in. We went and got him a cup of coffee. He let us in the gate to the right. He showed us everything. He showed us the room where the piano was, John Lennon's
Yeah.
office. And I saw the guy many years later, and he said, people have seen John Lennon's ghost dressed in the black leather jacket he was in,
Mm.
that someone came down once from the elevator shaking and said, oh my God, you know what? And he said, you saw John Lennon? And yeah, well, that
Yeah.
evidently he hangs out in the courtyard during Christmas time, only during
Hmm.
Christmas time when he was when he was killed.
Right.
And one record producer said that she saw him in the elevator. Got a writer. Went to talk, and he went like this to her, and she actually felt like nothing would come out of her mouth.
Oh,
When he
wow.
went like this, he
Wow.
smiled. He said, "Merry Christmas,"
Hmm.
and then gone.
Wow.
So everyone can't be lying, Anthony.
No, I agree. I mean, uh, and here's the thing. I mean, this is what I don't. If you believe in God, which I do, I believe in God. I believe
Me
in
too,
in the
of
afterlife.
course.
So why wouldn't there be? Why wouldn't there be some type of intersection between the two worlds? It just makes sense that there would be some type of intersection there. That's how
I
life
agree.
works. Nothing's perfect. Things work
Well,
like that.
yeah, energy and all of that, but
Right.
there are just too many coincidences, too many stories from people that are very credible.
Hmm.
I can see if other people are saying, and people don't have to believe me, but I think you believe me because
Oh
I
yeah, I
wouldn't
do.
bother to say
Yeah,
this.
sure.
Uh,
Yeah. Hmm.
and I've told that story about my house from years since I've been on here because that just freaked me out. But what made you get into this?
It's just something that I always love to do. I always love a good ghost story. I love telling stories too. So
Okay,
I, I figured, this is something that I'll do every Friday. I like doing it. It's fun for me, and why not? If people want to listen to me, that's great. It's just something I enjoy doing, and I always loved Halloween. When I was a little kid,
really?
I was always crazy about Halloween, always,
Wow, really?
and and it's funny because my younger son was the same way, and I never it's just like, and I remember his kindergarten teacher said, I never met a kid so into Halloween before. And I said, well, I guess he takes after me because I've always loved it. I just thought it was such fun, Halloween, and the concept of what could possibly be the magic or whatever, or the spirits and all that stuff. It's just fascinating stuff to me.
So you
And
totally believe in go? There's one content provider. I don't want to use the person's name
yeah.
that goes with all the paraphernalia to graves and
Hmm.
is very into the ghosts and the
Yeah.
occult and the paranormal and everything. But I'll tell you the truth, when I planned this trip, which was
Hmm.
maybe 2 months ago, I was going to go get Ghostbuster shirts because I hadn't seen Ghostbuster in years. And she said, come on, we got to watch. We watched the Ghostbuster that came out a few years ago.
The girl
And then
version or the woman version? That one?
the two kids
Oh, the
that moved into
kids. Yeah,
the
yeah,
town,
yeah, yeah.
and
Yep.
then the newer one.
Mhm.
I didn't remember the first one, so I said,
Right.
"Let's put." That was the interest in it, and I
Mhm.
said, "I'm gonna get go to Halloween. Ruby's costume is over here in Queens. If they have everything,
Yeah.
if they don't have it, you don't need it." And I was going to get two Ghostbusters and run through the halls like an idiot, joking around. Only the day that we were leaving because I would get kicked out and have nowhere to stay.
Right.
But you know something, this stuff. But hey, Detroit, this stuff isn't really for the faint of heart, but it's
Mm.
real. And you have to wonder. I really believe, Anthony, that you have to respect this stuff. I'll tell you why. These are spirits,
Mhm.
whether they're spirits that want to stay or spirits that don't want to stay and are trapped. Listen, heaven must be pretty good. No one ever comes back. So
Mhm.
to me, I feel like maybe they really have lost their way, can't get
Yeah.
to
Right.
where what would make
Right.
us think that maybe they're waiting someone else has to die before they're exhorted to heaven? We don't know any of the rules. So to make fun of it, I
Yeah.
think is disrespectful. I just said about Ghostbusters, but I was just joking. But
Yeah. No, no,
it's
no, no.
you have to have a little reference for it. This is still people that died. No matter
Mm-hmm.
how much we want to joke or say, "Ah,
Right.
you're full of crap," these are people that died. This is someone's parent, someone's
Mm-hmm.
child. So maybe
Absolutely.
they are caught in a in a vacuum
Right.
or a hole that they just can't find their way. It's like people that have drug issues. Some fight it, are great, never do a drug again. My sister passed from drug abuse, just could never get
Mm-hmm.
out of her own way. Well, maybe there are
Right.
people that just can't find their way to heaven or wherever they're supposed to be. And I really believe that now. And that's why I thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
I loved when you asked me to come on here because now everyone, I told the ghost story on a Friday, and Anthony joked around and said, "What are you stealing my thunder?" Because I never knew he did this stuff. So I'm telling you now, and I don't lie. I wasn't stealing your thunder, but no, I'm going. I think it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's amazing this stuff. Now, have you ever had any experience,
The
but
only,
other than
yeah,
when you told me? Now, I don't
yeah.
know if you told that live, but
I
that
think
you
I don't know if I've ever told it on the show, so I'll tell it now real quick. And that's the closest thing. I've never had anything outside of that, and I've always wanted to have one, but I've never really been fortunate enough to experience anything. What the experience I did have was when my son, older son, was born. He was born, let's see, in January. My mother had passed away the previous September, and and she loved she had my daughter who was a year older. She loved her. My mother was really sick for a while before she
sorry,
passed. So she
sorry.
was, she loved having Nicole around. Nicole was under a year, but she just loved it. And it was the only thing that really gave her any pleasure at that particular time because she was in a lot of pain and
Yeah.
stuff. Um, but anyway, so Michael was born in January and he was home from the hospital about a month, and at that point, I was just lamenting over how, uh, my mother never saw him and how she'd love to have seen him, and just like she'd loved Nicole. And so one night, I was just about to put Michael to bed, and Michael was in his own room. Nicole would sleep with my wife and I, and he had his own room. They both had their own rooms, but they were, they're babies. And I go to put him down in his crib, and I put him down in his crib. He's fast asleep. And Michael would always sleep through the night. He wasn't really a nighttime crier or anything like that. So I put him down to sleep, and I shut all the lights off. There was a light over the crib, and then there was an overhead light in the room, and I shut them all off, and I went to bed. Now the next morning, I wake up, and after I put him to bed, I said to my wife, I just, I was feeling sad, and I said, I really wish my mom
Of course.
could have seen him and experienced him. So we go to bed. The next morning, I wake up, and every light in Michael's bedroom is on. It's on, and I know for a fact that I shut every light off because I specifically did that. I shut the
Especially
light
if
off.
that's your habit of shutting lights off,
Yes.
why be on now? Right.
Yeah, it was specific. It was new to me, and it was specific. He hadn't been there that long. He only been with us a month. I
Right.
shut the light off there, and then I shut the overhead light off, and then I went into our room, and I looked behind me too. I always do that. I always look behind me to make sure the lights are off, make sure everything was shut out. The next morning, they were all on, and to me, that was a sign that my mother heard me, and was showing that yes, she could still see what was going on, even though she wasn't here. She could still see what Michael and see what happened. So I mean, it was really made me feel really good at the time. But that's the closest thing that I ever had to like a paranormal type of
Well, that was like
experience.
the light that I saw in the front room. It's like they
Right.
are telling you it's
Right.
okay. Now, I had an experience. I had a girlfriend when I was 17. She was 16 years old, and she used to tell me all the time, "I get visions. I get visions. I get visions." Yeah, right. Well, we're in a movie theater. There's no beepers back then. I don't think there were beepers. This is 1978, and she starts screaming, "Oh my God, we gotta go! We gotta go! We gotta go!" I said, "What are you talking about?" We go home. We take the bus and everything.
Hmm.
Everyone's at her house. Her grandmother just died.
Wow.
She
So
hadn't spoken to me
she just
for,
knew that she had to get home. She just knew
yeah.
it. Something told
So
her.
I
Yeah.
took her to a doctor, Dr. Osis. I'll never forget. And she got 8 out of the 10 cards right up in Upper West Side, but like 18 years old. I felt like an idiot, but you're in love at that point.
Yeah.
She hadn't spoken to me in 15 years. My sister Nancy, who passed. My father died at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'll never forget. It was August 18th because the night before, 8 hours before, whatever, the Gotti movie was on HBO with Amon Asante. That was August
Yeah.
1796.
Yeah.
And she called my sister Nancy, and Nancy called me and said, Maria just called me. I said, did you talk to her and tell her daddy? I said, I haven't spoken to Maria in years.
Yeah.
She said, call her, please, because she'll haunt me. She'll keep on calling me. I call her. She goes, I'm so sorry about Big Vin. I said, well, how come you called? She said, I had a dream of your father last night. I said, what was it? She says, he had these green pajamas on with no top, walking up steps to heaven saying, Maria, I'm tired. I used to jump out of planes. Now I can't jump out of bed. My father's a paratrooper in a Green Beret.
Oh, wow.
He used to tell me that all the time. There's no way she could have known that.
Wow.
No way. And better yet, the VA hospital, the pajamas were green, and he always wore the green pants with no shirt on. She couldn't have known that.
Yeah.
And she said, I had that. Now, the interesting thing is, because of all these things that happen, your mind plays tricks on you. For the first time in years, I had a dream the other night of Nancy. And I'm scared in the house. This is before thought. I'm scared in the house because I know she's upstairs and she's dead. I walk out of the house. She comes over to me and she says, what are you scared for? I wouldn't hurt you. She goes like this. Her face, she turns into Maria, my ex, but I still think it's Nancy. You know how the dreams are.
Yeah.
I said, how is heaven? She goes, it's not what everybody thinks. She said, no, she said, it's totally different than you imagine.
Okay.
Totally
Yeah.
I said, how long do I have? She goes, you have 3 years. Now,
oh boy,
this was supposedly 2015 because I did the math in the dream. It was going to be, so I have till 2018. Right. But that's what she said to me. So even now she's breaking 50 years later, this girl I can't get rid of her. She's haunting me. Christ.
That's funny.
It's true. But I'll tell you something. When I saw the content provider with all the paranormal gear and stuff, I think I'm going to start getting into these. I would love to get an expedition going with me and you and Tommy or something and go visit one of these places. I would definitely do that if you were interested in doing that.
Oh, I would definitely do that. I've never done anything like that. Yeah.
I would definitely do that. I could haunt you both for the whole weekend. You don't have to lie. You can say, yeah, Vinny haunted us. But I would love to do something like that. But do you think that people are open to it that see these things also? Like, you have to be very open to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think some people are. Some people just dismiss everything. Some people are just pure cynics and they're just going to dismiss everything all the time. But I think a lot of people are open. I mean, and that's how I've always been. I've always been open to it, right? I've never, I mean, I do believe in it, but I've always been open to it. Before, when I was growing up, people were telling me, my father would never believe in it. He would be like, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. He would always say that.
My father would have smacked me off the top of my head.
But I've always felt open to it. I always said, this is why not? There's so many things that are possible in this world. Why couldn't this be possible? And to your point, for everyone, for these stories to come out of everywhere, all different times, all different places, something has got to be to it. There's got to be something to it.
Everyone can't be lying all the time.
Yeah,
that's what I feel. And when you have priests or whomever who have said, no, I saw this. Everyone has. Now, I always thought it was maybe the brain shutting down. So you've heard so many stories about your loved ones coming to get you that when your brain and you're dying, you automatically see that because you've been conditioned to think that. But no, my sister Nancy, who was not that way, and she was fine before she wasn't drugged up or anything. And she said, I have to go, or they're here to see me. And my niece, who's like, there's no one here.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, don't you see them? And then eyes back and head.
And that doesn't, and that whole theory doesn't explain away what you brought up before, those instances where a 5-year-old kid can pick out an ancestor he's never seen before.
Did you ever read that story?
I remember hearing about it. I've never read it, but I remember hearing about that he died. He died, came back, they revived him. And then
he said, to the crowd, your people, he said, who is so-and-so?
Yeah.
And they're showing him an old book and a great-great-grandfather whom we never. He goes, that's him.
Yeah.
And that was the
Right.
name. They had never spoken about this man.
Right.
He could have never known about it. And he
Hmm.
goes, he was there, and he said to me, it's not your time. I have a friend, Freddie, who's my ex bandmate, who comes on, Freddie, and he always told me that he saw his father who passed, and
Hmm.
he's on a couch, Freddie, and he looks out. The father comes from the backyard, the door. He sees all. He kind of hears them. He doesn't see them. All younger, and he goes, "I want to go," and he goes, "It's not your time yet." And Freddie
Right.
said, as he's had these over the last 30 years, he gets closer and closer to the door.
Oh.
His father still won't let him out the back, but
Right. Right.
where he never got off the couch, now
Mhm.
it's like he gets up and gets a little closer, closer. So
Yeah.
and Fred's another one.
Yeah.
So it's like if Tommy told you something, he's not bullshitting. You know him a million
Right.
years.
Right.
You know who's lying to you,
Yeah.
and you know who's dead serious with you.
Right.
And I got to tell you, Anthony, the reason why I believe it more than anything, because normally I would be scared shitless when that
And you
happened,
weren't. And
and
you
I had a
weren't.
calm
Yeah.
over me. And the
Yeah.
same calm I equated to the calm when I would have jumped up when I was 30 years old and saw that white cloud in the room. For
Right.
some reason, I was okay.
Right.
And I really do believe that showed me a little something. And listen, and then when the lady said, because I thought it was the second floor, I had no idea anything happened on the third floor. Because when I asked her, I said, they said we were safe coming in and everything. She goes, oh no, 307. She said,
Yeah.
right there was where fireman died. I
Wow.
said, oh, she told me. I said, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I smell smoke. And she goes, no, you're not. She goes,
Mhm.
people have said their shoes were turned upside down in the
And I
room.
think if you work, like, those people are really telling, the people that work in those places like that, and they hear the same stories coming from
Yes.
different people that are not related. It's not a
Right.
conspiracy, but they're
Right.
hearing the same stories come from different people. That must be interesting to hear
Yeah,
from them.
Oprah's not sitting with me. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not doing it to make any money,
Right.
but
Right.
I was. It's a quaint place, and it was pretty cheap. It was like $240 a night or something, like it cost
Yeah.
500 2 nights. But it's just such it's something that I could say I did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, did your kids ever think anything, or your wife, because you were so into this and Halloween? Do you
No.
think you liking Halloween got you into this because you just happened to like that stuff?
I
You think
think
that
I
was a
think that's what kind
precursor?
of opened the door for me. Definitely,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I always thought cool, ghosts cool. I
Yeah.
love ghosts. I love Halloween, the pumpkins and the ghosts and the goblins and all that. So I always loved that stuff. So I think it opened the door for me in that.
When you were younger, did you ever play with like a Ouija board when you were younger?
I
Or any
never
of
did
that
that.
stuff?
I was always afraid to do that. Honestly, I
I
was always
never did it
afraid to
either.
do
I don't
that.
think I had friends that did it. I would
Yeah,
have tried. But
yeah.
I've heard stories with that too. Or tarot. Do you ever go for a tarot read or anything like that?
No, no, mm-mm. But I've seen it. I've seen it done. Like I said, I've always been like afraid to do that
To
in my
push the
younger
envelope?
days.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as a younger, yeah. I tell you, this stuff is incredible. Like now you know a lot of this Amityville horror. Do you believe that
Yeah.
it happened?
I don't know. I think Amityville Horror is kind of. I think there's been a lot of that said it was bull. I mean, there was a lot of things that said that was not necessarily that it
Right.
was all done for the publicity and to make money. And so I don't know. I don't know if I believe that per
The
se.
Exorcist, the story like that. The Exorcist.
Exorcist, I could buy into that. I definitely could. I tell you what, I do buy into the
What's that?
what is it? The haunting. The what is it called? It's not the Blair Witch. That's fantasy. It's the other witch. They call it a witch. It's from Maryland. It's what is it called?
Joe
It's
Biden's
like
wife? Oh, that's Delaware.
no. It's the haunting. It's
That's Delaware. Yeah.
the movie. I think the movie's called the haunting or the haunted or the haunting, and Donald Sutherland is in it. It's based on a story that happened
Oh,
in
I
18.
know which one. I know which one you're talking about. I never saw
Yeah.
it, but Donald Sutherland. Yeah.
Yes, that one. That one, I believe that story because it's so old and there was like people that actually died from that experience and stuff. Like it's all documented things that happened. And it was
Yeah.
way before people were looking to make money, that's for sure. Nobody was trying to make money in 1840
Right.
on that
Right.
stuff, you know.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely. But I would think Salem, you would have witches
Mhm.
that were burned at the stake, even if they were accused of being witches. Those would be spirits that are pretty pissed. So I would
Right.
say, but I don't buy it that it's only spirits that are want. I think, like you said, there are people that just didn't accept leaving Earth.
Yeah. Right.
And maybe one day it could be 300 years because time is a continuum. There's no time.
Right.
Maybe then eventually they will go. But I guess that they just they're not ready for whatever
Yeah.
reason.
And then
But
there's also the concept of residual ghosts. Like they're just the memory. They're not even, they're not interactive. They're not a spirit that's interactive, but
oh, okay.
they're like a movie rerunning, like in a traumatic experience. And they say that a lot of Gettysburg, like a battlefield, like it was such a traumatic event that happened there that the energy manifests itself and it reruns what occurs. So if you're there, and there's been so many countless sightings in Gettysburg on the battlefield of seeing like soldiers and people thinking there's a reenactment going on, and then it's not. There's no
Oh, really?
reenactors there.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
oh
didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Oh, really? And what is that? Because I'm going to look that up.
Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. So I'm sure they have tours. They have tours.
Oh, they definitely do. Yeah, oh, yeah, definitely.
In fact, in Thorpe, I didn't do this, but in Thorpe they have a jail, an old jail,
Mm-hmm.
and evidently there was a handprint. They would hang people, guillotine. They would hang them, and there was a handprint, and they've replaced, and it always comes back.
Right.
I didn't
Right.
do that tour. I didn't do it. I was only there 2 days, but I just think this stuff is amazing, Anthony. I really
and
do.
it's fascinating. It's fun. It's kind of lighthearted, and I don't mind if people don't believe in it at all. I don't. What is
Yeah,
it?
right.
It's no skin off my nose. It's entertaining. It's if you're being entertained by it, that's good enough for me. If you like it
Yeah.
and you're interested, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, it's kind of like people like us that have I have a very small channel, but you know what?
Right.
We wouldn't come on here and make a fool of ourselves with a story like this. We're
Right.
not making any money at it.
Right.
The only thing, because most people will believe me. They know I don't bullshit, but some will say, but why would I bullshit you?
Yeah,
not
right.
you, but why? I wouldn't.
Right.
But I was shocked. And when I hit Anthony up, I said, I'm going to go here and I'll report back. And never thinking, I was hoping to come back and say, they're full of crap.
Yeah.
But,
Right.
I could actually say that there was something there.
Right, absolutely. And I see, folks are making jokes in the chat, and that's great. That's fine.
I didn't look.
They're making jokes in general, about different things and what they really are. The ghost of the wooden spoon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's great too.
Yeah,
But
well, that's what this is. It's entertainment. But people, I promise you, I'm not lying to you. It happened. In fact, I ran and called Mitch. My friend Mitch is on here. I ran and called him as soon as it happened. Texted him.
Yeah.
Call me. Yeah, I'll tell you, the burning wasn't a bit when I saw her face.
Yeah.
Because
must have
you're
been the
walking
kicker.
and I hear and she runs like what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
And when I saw that, and I said, "What happened?" And she said, "I see a bunch of green, red. When I so I opened the door and it slams back at me like I couldn't open it. Someone was like behind the door and just did this. And I figured out maybe someone robbing the place, But it wasn't. But yeah, to see her face, and she's a chick that doesn't take.
Yeah, she's not going to be scared easily. She's not going to. Yeah,
no.
Yeah.
I try to terrorize. I can't terrorize her. If I can't terrorize you, no one can. So, but it was crazy. It was crazy. But you and I and Tommy really have to do one of these things, whether it's a tour or I would love to do it with you because you know the stuff. Tommy would probably love it. But thank you so much for having me on. I really
thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Listen,
I appreciate it.
Listen, you've been nothing but kind and helpful to me since I did this 2 years ago. You were doing it before me, and you were always open and friendly to me, and I really appreciate that.
Well, that's why like knows like. That's why Tommy and I and you and your Tommy's friend for years and Dean I met. people generally, if you look at YouTube, and I call our world, we're not mob tube, but those happen to be the people we know because
Yeah,
that's
it's like the same. That's where we
it,
drew from. We drew from
right.
them.
The same people are
Yeah,
friends that have
yeah,
been friends and have had a problem with each other. So it kind of tells
right.
you when 4 or 5 guys, 6 guys never had a problem with each other, and everyone else has had multiple problems. It,
Mm-hmm.
like those, but anything I could ever do for you, I'm there.
Oh
You know,
yes, yeah, yeah, and the
you
same
know that.
goes here. The
Oh,
same
thank you,
goes. And
thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Now Sunday night I'm doing The Sopranos, and I tell Tommy and you guys have an open invitation.
oh
You
yeah, yeah,
don't
yeah,
even never have to ask me. I'll just put the link in there because
yeah.
I'd love you to come on.
No, yeah,
But
yeah.
I'll be on at 9 o'clock Sunday. But thank you so much.
Thank you. No, thank you for joining. I
You're
really
very
appreciate
welcome.
it.
God
All
bless you.
right,
Talk to you soon.
take care.
Bye, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
All righty. So there you go. Thank you. I thought that was great. That was a great story, a firsthand story of someone that I know and most of you guys know who actually experienced something. So I thought that was awesome. And I'd love to have other people on if anyone else, and I've said this before, if anyone else has an experience, they want to come on and tell the story. You don't have to put your face on. You could do it with an avatar. A lot of people don't want to show their face, and that's fine. But I'd love to have that, you know. And I'll keep going for stories. I'm going to keep telling stories. Believe me, I will. But it's a nice change to have someone come on and do and share the actual encounter of what they experienced. So, I mean, I think the whole town of Jim Thorpe is a great destination if you can go there. I think I'm going to try to go there myself one of these days. And such a beautiful town. And so check it out. You never can tell, ghosts or not, nor ghosts. It looks like an awesome place to be around Christmas. It would be awesome, beautiful. In the fall, it would be awesome. So check it out, something to do. And as always, I want to thank everybody for joining me. I'm beyond my time. I usually don't like this to go more than an hour, but we had Vinny on, so it made a lot of sense. But I want to thank each and every one of you for joining, and thank you. I see even Thendo came in. Thank you. I hope the fights went well. I hope it was entertaining, and I know I didn't say hello to everybody, so I apologize for that. But thank you guys, Mike F, Cinnamon Girl, Baywatcher, Bobo, Gianni, Gerard, all you guys. Really appreciate you hanging out. Patty Daly, I appreciate you hanging out and hanging in me for the whole story. That was pretty awesome. And I'll be here every Friday. Let me see, Nick M was here. I'm just trying to scan real quick. Carmela, of course, I said that. I think I said Carmela before. Teresa Murphy was here. Great crowd. Great crowd tonight. So as always, I want to say God bless. Thank you for joining. Please press the like button if you can. It does help me with the algorithm. I'm also going to try to do some more of those shorter stories. If you haven't caught my last one about the Ghost Rangers, that was pretty cool. It got a lot of views. So I'm going to do some of those shorter pre-records so you can watch them whenever you want to. It's not just about lives, and that one seemed to be pretty popular. So I'll be happy to do more of those if people like them. And as always, I say God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for joining. Build the Guild. And as always, we blow out the candles and I always say, stay scared because it's fun to be scared. Have a great night and weekend, guys. Bye-bye.